Today, Prime Minister Mark Carney's government tabled what they are naming the One Canadian Economy Bill. It's aimed to remove internal trade barriers and expedite infrastructure projects. Carney says breaking down barriers within Canada is how we are going to survive in this trade war with the United States.
But by building at home, we will truly make Canada strong. That's what First Ministers unanimously committed to in Saskatoon on Monday. That's why we're introducing the legislation today. We're giving Canadians the ability to give ourselves far more than any foreign government can ever take away. We can build big, build bold, build now, build one Canadian economy, build a better Canada for all and for all time.
Let's turn once again to CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian, who's joining us live from Ottawa. Rafi, you were watching the Prime Minister's announcement. What did he say about why he's introducing the bill right now?
He's wanting to build on that momentum from the Saskatoon meeting with the First Ministers, Natasha. It went well by all accounts. We saw a lot of smiling premiers that day going into the meeting, and perhaps more rarely, given how these things have tended to go in the last decade or so, also coming out of the meeting with smiles. The Prime Minister says he wants to build on that. So what this bill proposes is the creation of this major projects office, which would help coordinate faster approvals for major projects in this country. Ottawa estimates that it currently takes up to 5 years for that to happen. They want to bring that down to 2. They've set out 5 major criteria. These include strengthening Canada's resilience and autonomy, bringing economic or other types of benefits to Canada, consultations with indigenous people, as well as making sure that whatever project is approved meets Canada's climate and environmental goals. Now, Carney is saying that he wants to try to get this legislation passed as quickly as possible, and he talked about those timelines answering questions to reporters. Have a listen.
Look, we're in a crisis. We're in an economic crisis. We sometimes, glide over that. This government doesn't. We're focused on the issues. We're still facing and intensifying unjustified tariffs from our largest trading partner. And the best way to respond to that is to respond at home, to build strength at home. We have a tremendous opportunity to build strength at home. This bill helps to unlock that, and we will do everything to get it passed before the summer. And if Parliament needs to sit longer, it should sit longer in order to get it passed.
Rafi, how is this all going to work when it comes to cooperating between the provinces, territories, and let's not forget the all-important relationship between the Crown and various Indigenous communities and leaders?
Yeah, speaking of the speed Carney wants to work at, I mean, those could all be major factors in whether a project is sped up or slows down. Now, this projects office, it's supposed to coordinate with provinces and territories in order to have agreement on which level of legislation a project goes through in order to get approved, whether it's the federal Environmental Assessment Impact Act or it's a provincial or territorial equivalent. It's supposed to make sure that Indigenous people are adequately consulted. Carney, again here, saying that he's not going to try to rubber stamp anything over anyone's wishes. He addressed this too at the news conference.
We will not impose a project on a province. We need consensus behind these projects, and we need the participation of Indigenous peoples. What's encouraging from the First Minister's meeting in Saskatchewan is that many provinces came together in support of projects that would stretch across provincial boundaries. So, for example, the Western and Arctic Corridor would be an example, or the Energy East Partnership. That's Energy East Partnership, not pipeline, to be clear. And that's an example where that consensus is forming, understanding that we need to work together in order for this to happen.
Couple of words to parse there in that answer. His use of the word many before provinces and his specification that he's talking about a project, not a pipeline. And those, if you read between the lines, those are about how a couple of the provinces there did not agree on the idea of a pipeline, which is, of course, the major ask from Alberta and has been for the last several years. Notably, British Columbia and Quebec suggested that they'd want to see a concrete project, figure out its economic impact and its environmental impact before they go through with saying yes to such an idea. And now Alberta has recently taken to suggesting that they no longer want to work through Quebec approvals for this, that they could do a kind of British Columbia Pacific Coast route at the start to ending in Manitoba off the shores of the Hudson Bay. But, well, you still need BC to say yes to that before you can go through with it. And just on the Indigenous peoples front, I will note that the Assembly of First Nations issued a statement today saying that they met with the Prime Minister yesterday and they still have a number of reservations on how consultations would work in this new legislation if it passes.
Rafi, you mentioned the potential obstacle of how British Columbia moves forward with this policy, particularly when it comes to pipelines. And that was one of the concerns brought up by the Conservative Party leader, Pierre Poilievre, just a short time ago when he was responding to the bill as it's been presented by the Prime Minister. What else did Pierre Poilievre have to say?
Yeah, he called this bill a baby step instead of the giant leap it needed to be in order to get rid of interprovincial trade barriers and the obstacles, what he sees as the bureaucratic obstacles to getting major projects approved in Canada. He said that before the Conservative Party can talk about whether or not they will vote yes on this legislation in Parliament, they'll need to have a talk in caucus, which will be next Wednesday, and they certainly would have a number of amendments to present to the legislation, including getting rid of the Federal Environmental Impact Assessment Act, which the Conservatives have a number of other names for. I'll let you listen to Pierre Poilievre.
We are happy to collaborate with any of the parties on this bill, and we want to amend it to scrap the No Development Law C-69, the shipping ban, the energy cap, bring in shovel-ready zones, eliminate the industrial carbon tax. We will work on a nonpartisan basis with any party to do all of that before Canada Day. And if the Prime Minister is really interested in getting things done, I'm sure that he will work with us on that too.
I will say that repealing Bill C-69, that's not strictly a Conservative federal idea. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has talked about the need to do that. Ontario Premier Doug Ford said that earlier this week in Saskatoon, that law has got to go. Carney has been asked about that a number of times during the election campaign as well as since, and it doesn't look like he wants to budge on that.
CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian in Ottawa. Thanks so much, Rafi.